No birds? No problem. Today we're going to talk about the reason why I think that the 1.10 update is a very good sign for the future of Planet Zoo and why it really doesn't matter that we don't have birds at this point. Why I think so? Well, you're gonna find out in today's video, so let's jump into it. Okay, before we really talk in detail about the things, here's a little disclaimer. Now, I know that we all have asked for birds for quite a while, and I know that we all have had some doubts about what happens in the future or not in the past couple of months, but I think the last updates are really a very good sign. I'm gonna go through the 1.8, 1.9 and 1.10 update to show you what I mean exactly. Also, sorry for my voice, the pollen allergy is hitting insanely hard at the moment. I'm doing my best to have a not so crackled voice, but let's get into it. Alright, we are here with the 1.8 update, and the reason why I'm exactly here is pretty much because I think this update marked a change in the approach of Planet Zoo. Now, Planet Zoo at this point has been 2 years old. This has been more or less around the anniversary, like a month later to the anniversary of Planet Zoo. Now, the reason why it is so important to look into that update is because normally a game is supported for like 2, maybe 2.5 years, just as it has been with Planet Coaster. There have been rumors that Planet Zoo is opted to be supported way longer than that, and normally you can kind of feel something in the updates if that's true or not. And I think specifically this update showed us that it is true. Now, there was some very valid feedback in the last 2 years before that update that Frontier was following a kind of fixed schedule of updates without really listening to the feedback of the community, and hence kind of losing a little bit of the connect to what the people actually want versus what they had on their list, I guess. But this update was the first one that brought a lot of fan favorites to the table, haha, pun intended, because they started with restaurants. Now, restaurants obviously marked something that people were asking for quite a bit. It's maybe not that huge of a moment like the picnic tables were for Planet Coaster back in the day, but it's nevertheless a very nice addition because people were making freaking insane amounts of crazy restaurants. They were all implied, they had no function whatsoever, and yeah, at the end of the day, this really made people a bit frustrated because they wanted to have restaurants, and here we get them. Now, then they added something that a lot of people have been asking since the Planet Coaster days. We always wanted boxless shop counters, and now we got them. Just a little hint already at the 1.10 update. As promised, we will get them in the future, and boom, now we have everything in here. Then we had some burrows, and many people were asking about burrows because obviously that was something that people were craving for as well, just a kind of a bit more behavior-based things, a bit more natural, and we got the burrows, which is pretty cool, and it also added a cool dimension, and as we all know, we also got small burrows, an update later, so you can see they were adding a couple of things. We have the animal memorials that were introduced over here. It's nothing really too big for me, but it's a very cool zoo experience, and I have not really tested it too much, but especially for franchise mode, it makes a lot of sense. As I've seen, it just kind of boosts some of the happiness rating and stuff in a good way. But you will see how this piece ties into the puzzle later on, because I think after these 3 updates now, you can see a clear path of what Frontier is doing over here, and I'm loving it. But before saying so much about that, let's go on to the next update, which was the 1.9 update. And we are starting with one of the biggest, how to say that, confusions, I guess, which was resolved over here. We had the educators, and the educators were really tied to the education points in which they could hold their speeches, and at the end of the day, it was a nice addition. You couldn't really form a tour, you couldn't really do too much without planning ahead where the keeper is going to go into its staff building. But at the end of the day, the staff member of the educator became a little bit of a weird one because it solely existed to be at that education point. And, you know, that was not really the best thing ever. But now we have a roaming educator that, you know, the roaming educator was introduced in the 1.9 update. And I love it because now, especially in franchise mode, you can see so many things happening with like people standing there, gathering together around the educators, talking for a bit. It just completely constantly boosts your education. And that makes a whole lot of sense. We got the Explore camera mode, which was an ever so much more cool tool that we had with the Tejet Cam in the past, but it just didn't really give us too many options, and it wasn't really natively integrated, but now it is. We have the three different camera modes, very nice. We have a lot more visual management with the billboards being a thing that were introduced one update earlier. We got new water options with some more mist effects and stuff, and also we got the bathing behavior, which is really cool. That was introduced to the macaques, obviously, and also to the capybara that came with the DLC that came alongside the 1.9 update, and we also got the small burrows. So a whole bunch of cool new stuff that came into it. And remember, these things we have in that list over here always come as a free addition to the game, which is quite a lot. And now we jump over to the latest one, which is coming the 21st of June. That is the 1.10 update. And now I will talk about the coming together of all the pieces after we went through this, okay? But we first of all get the education stations. This is something I absolutely haven't really thought about at all, and I really never thought that they would do this for a couple of reasons. So first of all, people have been going nuts with these kind of implied education stations like a lot. I learned so much about this with Eben and so on, and funny enough, the latest episode of Tamachadi's Zoo from Eben and Mike, Eben even introduced something like that with a little education tool, or education and enrichment kind of mixed tool with like a little elephant water sprinkler thing where kids could spray the actual elephant with water and really have a bit more focus on the kids and the conservation. Now, really cool stuff. We get 3 of these stations, and it's cool ones indeed, I have to say, with the height measure and the soundboard and the paw print station. That is something you do know a lot from zoos, and it really gives a nice little addition to what you can do with kids and the guests in the park. Now, we have group photos, which, to be honest, might seem a little bit weird at the beginning. It's kind of nice to have it, but I think the really important bit about this is that last line over down here. To prompt a group photo to be taken, guests must be viewing a habitat. Well, that is in a zoo would be quite nice, and have an overall happiness rating of above 50%. Then we got the animal sniffing behavior. Yes, animal sniffing behavior is really nice. People pointed out that there are a couple of animals in here which are weird that they don't get it. For example, the aardvark, but I think the aardvark has kind of a different kind of sniffing animation already. I think this is already tied to them. Just these animals that didn't have any will get this, but sniffing behavior is really cool. Then we have the animal chorus behavior, so which is kind of cool that they do kind of make noises together, especially here for the new animal that comes, the siamang that comes with the DLC. And obviously our wolves will also do that. Then we get the new climbing enrichment pieces, which is pretty cool. And we have brachiation brought in with the siamangs. We have small habitat gates, another thing that people have asked for ages. And we get a lot new additional shop counters and signs. So that is something we needed quite a lot. And the small signs that came with the update will come now as well. Good. Okay, we are through. We are done with the 3 updates. And why am I doing this video, you might ask now. I think with these 3 updates now really looked into in one video and just directly after each other, you can really see that Frontier made a change in the way how they approached the game. Beforehand, I think they really followed a fixed schedule in a way, brought new pieces in, brought new stuff in that was always planned, kind of a little tactic, in that way. But now they listen to the community and they make their overall game experience a lot better. They have continuously implemented now new behaviors for animals that people were asking a lot about to make the simulation a lot better. Remember, we got bathing, we get brachiation now, we have the sniffing, so it makes the whole thing, or chorus by the way as well, it makes the whole thing so much more lively. Your animals are now behaving in a lot better way, and we know that has been a huge criticism along the way, and making the game so much better, especially as a base game. Especially talking about brachiation, I'm quite sure that they will bring this in as well into the base game for other animals like the chimpanzee and so on, because if I remember that correctly, they can only do this siamangs on this new climbing rig, which is modular. That's the good news, and that means that that this set of animations is tied to this specific climbing frame, but since the climbing frame is in the free update, this makes sense that they have something in mind for the future. And as you've seen with these updates, they always set up something which is connected to a DLC, which makes sense because they wanted to sell the DLC, and that's totally fine. You know, you have the new pieces, and if you want to have brachiation, you gotta have to get the DLC now for the next month in order to have this experience, which is, I mean, I'll give that to them because that makes a whole bunch of sense, and otherwise you would lose out on money. This is another very good argument. Planet Zoo is still making a whole lot of money, so if you can buy these DLCs, because that will buy us the chance of having more and more updates, because as long as the game sells well, it's going to be continued in development, which is very good news. But the setup, how they do this, always hints at the next step. So you can really expect to have brachiation for animals in the couple of next updates, as the free update then, obviously. We have a lot of changes to the guest. I mean, just look at it, how much has changed with the zookeepers having all these tasks now, a small gate and blah, 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 but also the guests, how they interact with the educators, the education stations, the educator point where they're holding talks. We got the seatings, the educator seatings, like the stands. So many things that were implemented in the last couple of updates to make the whole experience a lot better. And now they also start to have certain values in to make certain behaviors, even of guests appearing, connected to a happiness rating and stuff. And you know what that means? This means, especially franchise, is going to be a lot more challenging, and in the longer term challenging, because you have to have certain things happening before you have certain animations and stuff, you know. And I have played franchise now. Well, I think it is my 7th season we are playing right now with the Lost Aqualand. So I think I'm in a good position to argue about this. Each single time I played franchise, it became a better experience. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I said that already at the beginning. Franchise was the biggest issue of Planet Zoo at the very beginning because it was pointless. They really had so many things in the game that were nice and good, but the experience was, once you had enough money, you basically could do whatever you want. It was basically Sandbox with a couple of little restrictions. But now, franchise became so much more involving, so much more opportunities for enrichment and so much more opportunities for education, because that was another problem. No matter how much money you had needed to throw the people with like kind of education boards and education speakers until they finally had a kind of relatively good education rating, which was nuts. The same about drinks, by the way. The demand of drinks from people in a zoo was ridiculous. You needed to have like 2 shops for drink for each habitat you built. That was ridiculous. I remember our tiger zoo we had at the beginning. I had more shops than animals later on in this park. But they fixed all these things along the way with so much more options. You've got the vending machines, you've got the restaurant, you've got small shop fronts now, and so on and so forth. So I'm looking very positive into the future of Planet Zoo because there are so many things that they have fixed in the last 3 updates I wouldn't have even believed they would touch upon in this stage of the game development. And so if they do that, that has a good reason, and I think they can go on. Also, what I might add, the performance has gotten so much better in each and every update. They even have upgraded the engine to the latest Cobra engine, which has never been happened before with the Planet games and also with other games of Frontier, I believe. So they have even upgraded that to the latest version of the engine, which gave them a lot of new opportunities. Maybe that's also the reason why we see brachiation right now. You never know, but that's just me guessing. But at the end of the day, this is really good news, and I hope you guys see that the same way. I wouldn't be mad if we see birds at some point and a deep sea diving as well, but the way how they set up the game, I have high hopes that we might see that in the future because they have a longer plan with this game, but first of all making the foundation right. So I am very happy, and I'm also very happy with the focus of the DLCs, but that's something I want to talk about in a different video. thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys think the same way, and let me know in the comments down below if you think the same way or if you want to see other things and what you think about the latest development of Planet Zoo. I am, as I said, very hopeful and very positive. I think they did a great job on the last 3 updates and also with the focus on the animals they brought with the DLCs. Yeah, let me just know in the comments down below what you think about this, and when you see more of this and hear more about this, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. We are nearing the 70,000 subscribers. That would be a great milestone to achieve before the DLC drops, so help me out on that, please. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm gonna talk to you in the next one. Have a good time and goodbye.